So as these are the demo sessions, that is the reason we are starting late. Regular classes will be from 10 to 11. I already told you, right? So in the last session, we discussed about what are the features we have in Linux. In today's session, we'll discuss about file system hierarchy. Means what are the default directories we get along with the operating system. Directory means folder. What are the default folders we get along with operating system that we discuss in today's session. Okay. And whatever I'm explaining, I will share the notes also. Once you registered with this course, I'll share the notes to your Telegram group. So file system hierarchy, default directories. Okay. See, in Windows, A and B are reserved for floppy, whether you are using or not. A and B are reserved for floppy. It starts creating drives from C, that is in Windows. So C is primary partition. It is compulsory partition, right? Under C drive, after installing the operating system, if you open C drive, under C drive, you can see default folders. Some folders you can see by default, right? So like users, administrator, programs, library, there are some folders, default folders. Similarly, in Linux also, after entering to the operating system, you can see default directories. Only name is different. In Windows, we call folder. In Linux, we call directory. Only name is different. So about the directories we are discussing in today's session. You're getting my points, right? Can someone respond? You're getting my point, what I'm telling? Done. So first one is forward slash. Forward slash is similar to C in Windows. In Windows, we have C drive. Here we have forward slash. So forward slash is a parent directory or top level directory in Linux. I'm repeating, forward slash is a parent directory or top level directory in Linux. Okay, so it is similar to C in Windows. It is similar to C in Windows. Under forward slash, we have subdirectories. These all directories comes under forward slash. Okay, I'm repeating. Forward slash is a parent directory or top level directory in Linux. Under forward slash, we have subdirectories. These all directories are under forward slash. And this forward slash is similar to C drive in Windows. So under forward slash, the first subdirectory is root. Root is the home directory for super user. Super user means administrator. Root is the home directory for super user. As a super user, you logged in into computer and you are creating any files or directories. The data is going to store under root. Okay. I'm repeating. Root is the home directory for super user. As a super user, we logged in into computer and we created files and directories. Means by default, the data is going to store under root. Super user means administrator. Okay. And next one is home. Home is the home directory for normal user. As a normal user, we logged in into computer and we are creating any files or directories. Means by default, the data is going to store under home. For every user, there is a directory under home. With same username, it creates a directory under home. So when the user logged in and creating any files or directories, the data is going to store in their own directories, which is under home. I'm repeating, forward slash. It is a parent directory or top level directory in Linux. Under forward slash, we have subdirectories. Okay. And it is similar to C in Windows. The next one is root. Root is the home directory for super user. Super user means administrator. As a super user, you logged in into computer and you're creating any files or directories. The data is going to store under root. Home is the home directory for normal user. As a normal user, you logged in into computer and you're creating any files or directories. The data is going to store under home. And next one is boot. Boot contains bootable files. Operating system bootable files are stored under boot. Boot contains bootable files. Also kernel. Up to RHEL6 version, kernel also stored under boot. And next is sbin. Sbin contains super user commands. The commands which can be executed by super user. Super user means what? Administrator. The commands which can be executed by super user. That commands are stored under sbin. Bin contains normal user commands. The commands which can be executed by normal user. That commands are stored under bin. See, when you logged in into your computer, okay, and you are executing any command. See, as a normal user, you logged in into your computer and you are executing any commands. It will check whether the command is available or not. Where it will check? In bin directory. If the command is there, it will give you output. Otherwise, it will not give you output. USR. USR contains default applications. Applications which comes along with operating system. That applications are stored under USR. Default applications are stored under USR. Okay. So repeating again. / is a parent directory or top level directory in Linux. Under / we have subdirectories. It is similar to C in Windows. Root is the home directory for super user. Super user means administrator. As a super user, you logged in into computer and you're creating any files or directories. The data is going to store under root. Home is the home directory for normal user. As a normal user, you logged in into computer and you're creating any files or directories. The data is going to store under home. Boot contains bootable files. Operating system bootable files are stored under boot. And also kernel. Kernel also stored under boot. Up to version 6. Sbin contains super user commands. The commands which can be executed by super user, administrator. That commands are stored under sbin. Bin contains normal user commands. The commands which can be executed by normal user. That commands are stored under bin. USR contains default applications. USR contains default applications which comes along with operating system. That applications are stored under USR. Yeah, Rahul, commands also I will show you. I'm just giving explanation of these directories. Few directories like root, home, bin, this we will use in shell scripting also. Here also I will show you. All the directories, if you want to know, means that is in Linux administration, but some directories here also I will show you. Now I'm just giving explanation, that's it. Which directory is used for which purpose, how we use these directories, where we use these directories, that also I will show practically in further classes. Every point, whatever I'm explaining theoretically, everything I will show you practically also in further sessions. Where contains variable files, system log files. Like in Windows, we call task manager. Variable files means system log files are stored under where, like how many users are logged in, how much process they are using, how much CPU they are using, what commands they are executing. That information is stored under where. Dev contains devices information. Device means Partitions. In Windows, we call partitions. Here we call device. Dev contains devices information. etc contains configuration file. System configuration files are stored under etc. OPT contain optional application. Applications which we install manually. They are not compulsory to install. If we want, we will install. The type of applications are stored under OPT. Third-party tools. If we are downloading and we are installing, that type of applications are stored under OPT. Repeating, dev contains devices information, means partitions information. etc contains configuration files. System configuration files are stored under etc. OPT contains optional applications, applications which we install manually. That applications are stored under OPT. Media contains external devices information. External devices information means like removable devices information, like external hard disk, external DVD writers, removable devices, pen drives, all the informations are stored under media. MNT contains partitions and their mounted directories information. In Windows, after creating partitions, we format that partition. Once it is formatted, we can access the partition, right? If you just double click on the partition, means we can enter into the partition, we can create, we can delete, we can check, we can do whatever we want. But in Linux, after creating a partition and formatting the partition, directly we cannot access partition. So how we access the partition means we'll create a directory and we'll give link between the partition and directory. That is called mounting. Once a partition is mounted with a directory, then we can access the partition through the directory. This practically in partitions class I will show, but that is in Linux administration. And so in MNT, it contains which partition is linked with which directory. That information is maintained by MNT. And next one is run. Run contains external devices information and kernel information from RHEL 7 version. Up to version 6, boot contains kernel. From 7 version, run contains kernel. Up to 6 version, media contains external devices information. From version 7, run contains external devices information, removable devices information. So these are the directories we have in Linux. These are the default directories we get along with the operating system in Linux. Okay, I'm repeating these directories. These directories are important for administrators. Just for scripting, if you are learning means, okay, just idea if you have about these directories, that is enough. Not even required that also. But as an administrator, you should know each directory. Purpose of each directory, you must know. This is very important for administrators, Linux administrators. Okay, because in administrator level, regularly we use these directories. In daily life, we use these directories. So we must know which directory is used for which purpose. I'm repeating, /. It is a parent directory or top level directory in Linux. It is similar to C drive in Windows. So it is primary. Without C drive, we cannot install anything in Windows, right? Same like that in Linux. / is compulsory. Under / only we have all the subdirectories. So the first subdirectory under / is root. Root is the home directory for super user. As a super user, you logged in into computer and you're creating any files or directories. The data is going to store under root. Super user means administrator. Super user we call in Linux, administrator we call in Windows. Only name is different. Home is the home directory for normal user. As a normal user, you're logged in into computer and you're creating any files or directories. The data is going to store under home. Boot, it contains bootable files and kernel. Boot contains bootable files and kernel. Up to RHEL version 6, kernel is stored under boot. SBin contains super user commands, the commands which can be executed by super user. That commands are stored under SBin. Bin contains normal user commands. What is this commands? After installing the operating system, regularly we use commands. Once OS installation is started, daily labs will be there. So at the time you can see what are the commands we use. Bin contains normal user commands, the commands which can be executed by normal user. The commands are stored under bin. USR contains default applications, applications which comes along with operating system. That applications are stored under USR. Var contains variable files. System log files are stored under var. Dev contains devices information. Devices means partitions information. How many partitions are there? What is the size? How much size we used? All the information. How much free space is there? Everything will be stored under dev. etc contains configuration file. Linux works with configuration files. So that configuration files are stored under etc. What are the configuration files? I'll show few configuration files. I'll show in class. So configuration files are stored under etc. OPT contains optional applications. Applications which we install manually. They are not compulsory. If we want, we install them. The type of applications are stored under OPT. Like something you want to download VMware, you want to download Maya software, you want to download Adobe Reader, and you're installing that. The type of applications will stored under OPT. Media contains external devices information and kernel information from version up to version 6. Media contains external devices information. MNT contains partitions and their mounted directories information. Which partition is linked with which directory? That information is stored under media. Sorry, MNT. Which partition is linked with which directory? That information is stored under MNT. Okay. And run contains external devices information and kernel information. Removable devices information and kernel information from version 7. Run contains the details. So these are the directories we have in Linux. Is these directories are clear? Is these directories are clear? Any directory confusion is there, you can ask them. So for this directives, I will give notes also. In the last session, we discussed about features of Linux, right? For that also, I will give notes. Whatever I'm explaining, for that I will give notes. And now, these are the minimum hardware requirement. This is the minimum hardware requirement of OS installation. If you are going with command line interface, 512 MB RAM is enough. If you're going with graphical user interface, 1 GB RAM is there. You can install the Linux operating system. And hardware requirement, hard disk. If you're going with command line interface, 10 GB space is enough for graphical user interface. If you also want 15 GB space is required. Even with 10 GB space also, you can use graphical user interface. I will show that. While installing, I will give 10 GB space only and I will show. Okay, so this is the minimum requirement. In order to install Linux, this is the minimum hardware requirement. And recommended partitions. These are the recommended partitions in Linux while installing the operating system. These are the recommended partitions in Linux. These are not compulsory, recommended. Okay, so but in some interviews, they will ask what are the compulsory partitions in Linux while installing the operating system. What are the recommended means this or the recommended. What are the compulsory partitions means // and swap. / and swap are the compulsory partitions in Linux while installing the operating system. / is compulsory because it is a parent directory. So it is compulsory. It is similar to C. So it is primary partition. So it is compulsory partition. And next one is swap. What is this swap? Means swap is a virtual memory. Swap is a virtual memory which is used to increase the performance of RAM, physical RAM. And the size of swap is twice the RAM, double of the RAM. See, for example, if your RAM size is 1 GB, okay, you can create 2 GB swap memory. How we create means we'll take the space from hard disk and we'll create it. While installing the operating system, I will show how to create it. Okay, so we can create swap memory. We can take the space from hard disk and we can create swap memory. So what is the use of this swap memory? Means it is used to increase the performance of physical memory, means RAM. It is a virtual memory, means physically we cannot touch it. We create it virtually through hard disk. Now, what is the use of the swap? Means it is used to increase the performance of RAM, physical RAM. Now see, your RAM size is 1 GB. Assume your RAM size is 1 GB. You can create 2 GB of swap memory. We can take space from hard disk and we can create 2 GB swap memory. And we add the 2 GB space to our physical RAM. So 1 GB physical RAM plus 2 GB swap memory. Virtual memory means total how much? 3 GB. So initially, while sending the data and receiving the data, your RAM uses 1 GB space, right? Now, using 3 GB space, your RAM can send the data, your RAM can receive the data. So, your RAM working speed will increase. So, this is also one method. This is also one advantage in Linux, we can say. We can increase the performance of our RAM by creating swap memory, virtual memory. Okay. So how to create virtual memory? It is swap memory. While installing the operating system, I will show you. And after entering to the operating system also, we can create virtual memory. But that is in Linux administration, we'll see. Here I will show how to create virtual memory while installing the operating system. That I will show here. Okay, so I'm repeating / and swap are the compulsory partitions in Linux. / is compulsory because it is a parent directory. And swap memory is compulsory because to increase the performance of physical memory, means RAM. So / recommended size is 10 GB and swap is twice the RAM, double of our physical RAM. Remaining partitions are not compulsory. They are recommended only. They are just recommended. They are not compulsory to create. If you don't create also, not a problem. Because they'll automatically comes from / Then why they recommended? Because /boot, it is recommended because /boot require 200 to 500 MB space. It stores only bootable files, right? So if you give the size between 200 to 500 MB space means, so no one will store any data in the /boot. See, if there is more space, like 20 GB, 40 GB space is there in /boot means what we do, we store the data in /boot also in that scenario. So if we require, we store the data in /boot also. If you store something personal data in /boot while booting, it loads that, it checks that files also. While booting, it checks for that files also. For bootable files, it checks all the data. So that is time waste. That is the reason While installing the operating system, it is recommended to create /boot to avoid wastage. Unnecessary data we don't store. If you give only 200 to 500 MB space in /boot means we don't store unnecessary data in /boot. So in that scenario, while booting, it will not take much time to boot. For that reason, it is recommended. Okay. And next one is /home. /home also not compulsory. That is also recommended only. Why /home is recommended means /home, what it contains? User data. Right. So when the normal user logged in and creating any files or directories, the data is going to store under /home. So if you give more space to /home, like 200 GB, 300 GB, something, if you give the space, if you give the size to /home, using that space, users can store the data. No, you don't have normal users because you are the administrator. So you will log in into your computer as an admin only. There are no normal users at the time. No need to give space to /home because we store the data in our / only, right? So in that scenario, not required to give space to /home. If you have normal users, you want to allow your users to store the data separately only. In that scenario, you can give space to home directory. If it is your personal laptop or desktop, no need to give separately space to /home because we log in into super user account and there only we store the data. Even we can create separate partitions, there also we can store the data. So this is also recommended only. /home also recommended only. And last two, /usr and /var. These two are recommended in server PCs. In client machines, normal desktop PCs, we don't even require to create these two. Only in server machines, these two are recommended. Why these two are recommended? Because /var is recommended in server PC because var contains variable files, system log files. How many users are logged in, how much time they logged in, what are the process they are using, how many processes, IDs they open, what are the applications they open, what are the commands they are executing. All the information var contains. So, in order to store all that information, var required space. It required space. If there is no space, it cannot store the data. Log files it cannot store. That is the reason it is recommended in server PC to create /var so that they will give more space to var directory in order to store log files. Even /usr also recommended in server PCs only. Because in server PCs means they will run all the applications. All the applications they will run 24/7 because we don't know which application required for which employee. So we'll run all the applications 24/7. So in order to run all the applications, so they will give more space to /usr to run all the applications without any interruption. They will give more space to /usr. So these are the recommended partitions. These are the recommended partitions we have in Linux. So in this, what are the compulsory partitions? Compulsory partitions means / and swap are the compulsory partitions. / is compulsory because it is a parent directory. Swap is compulsory because it is a virtual memory which is used to increase the performance of physical memory, means RAM. Okay. And these are the default directories in Linux as we discuss. I will just revise these directories once. / is a parent directory or top level directory in Linux. / contains subdirectories. These all directories comes under /. So root is the home directory for super user. Super user means administrator. So if you log in as a super user and you're creating any files or directories, the data is going to store under root. Home is the home directory for normal user. As a normal user, you logged in and you're creating any files or directories, the data is going to store under home. Boot contains bootable files and kernel. kernel up to version 6. SBin contains super user commands, the commands which comes under the commands which can be executed by super user. That commands are stored under SBin. Bin contains normal user commands, the commands which can be executed by normal user. That commands are stored under bin. USR contains default applications. Applications which comes along with operating system. That applications are stored under USR. Var contains variable files, means system log files are stored under var. Dev contains devices information, means partitions information is stored under dev. etc contains configuration files, system configuration files are stored under etc. OPT contains optional applications, applications which we download, which we install manually. That applications are stored under OPT. Media contains external devices information and kernel information. Up to version 6, external devices means removable devices information is stored under media. MLT contains partitions and their mounted directories information. Run contains external devices information and kernel information from version 7. Media contains external devices information up to version 6. Up from version 7, run contains external devices information and kernel. So these are the directories we have in Linux. Okay, so this is about default directories and recommended partitions and recommended hardware in Linux, and how to install the operating system that I will show in tomorrow's session. OS installation practical is in tomorrow's session. Okay, so this is about today's session. We'll meet tomorrow at 10 a.m. and we'll see how to install the operating system. So now what we discussed is clear, right, everyone? Very good. So as I told you, I will give notes also. Once you register for this course, ask them for the Telegram group. You'll get the Telegram group. That is a private group only for our class. So there I will share the regular notes. I will upload the notes in that group. Okay. So this is about today's session. Thank you for the session. Any doubts? If you have, you can ask me. And not only today, regular classes also. If you have any doubts, you can ask me in the class. You can ask me, you can message me on the chat box or in Telegram group also, you can ask me. Okay. So thank you for this session.